Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dairy and today we're going to look at the Badgers defense versus Maryland. 27-10 score, a mini blowout. To some suggests an uninspired and poorly coached, poorly game planned outing against Maryland. But the film says otherwise. At times. Okay, still gave up 27 points. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But to say that the Badgers didn't have a plan and to say that the players were uninspired. Usually when someone says something like uninspired, one, that probably means they've never been on a football field. And then two, if they were on a football field, they probably never experienced hardship. And to say a team is uninspired is incorrect at best, insulting at worst. But it is what it is. We're going to look at the film today, and we're going to see what happened in the sampling that we're going to get today. So let's take a look at it. All right, so right out the gate, first offensive play of the game for Maryland. Just as something that we need to be thinking about in terms of game plan and in terms of how this defense is aligned and put into place to stop Maryland's offense. Okay, Maryland's had a lot of two tight end looks in this game. You have an athletic quarterback. So you've got to find that balance between heavy in the box and able to move in coverage. And one way that they did that throughout the game was to use the star package, which is bringing in the extra linebacker in place of the nickel. And when Maryland was in two tight ends, this was the primary defensive personnel package. And it's pretty sound in terms of matching body for body. Now, to do stuff like this, you need to have outside linebackers who can play downhill in the run, but also be able to reinsert themselves in the pass. Now, one thing we're doing here, we need to talk about Aaron Witt. Aaron Witt started his career at Wisconsin as essentially a defensive end. Outside linebacker up on the line. I think he was a defensive lineman in high school. He was left for dead, basically with years of injury recovery. He worked his way back in, working into playing time, and has become a steady run defender for the Badgers. This offseason, when the commitment was to getting bigger and stronger in the box, that included adding players in the portal, who I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here when I say have been major additions to this defense. One of them standing right next to him there, or in a three-point stance right next to him, Mason Reiger. So a player like Aaron Witt has got to, late in his career, retrain. And he's becoming essentially a pro-style 3-4 or 4-3 outside linebacker. Now, in this particular set here, because Matt Young is rotating down into the hook to curl in terms of pass coverage, it allows Aaron to be a little more aggressive in the box. And then when he reads pass, he can drop late, which he does. Okay? And I like, he has shown, there was times where his footwork's a little off. We'll talk about that later. But I think he showed a pretty good ability here to play both the run and the pass. And in a situation like this, even if the running back catches this, I think Aaron knocks his block off. And if anything, to start this game, it's almost better that he dropped this pass. But so right off the bat, and it's something we saw throughout the entire game, I think things that were improved on right away. We've had good personnel matchups against Maryland. We had good movement from the linebackers. And we're able to match up body for body with Maryland, which is something that we needed to improve on from last year. And so far in this game, or not so far, this is the first play of the game. Throughout this game, I think that's something that they actually did a pretty good job with. All right, next up, a little bit later in the first quarter, second and 10 situation. And what we're going to talk about here is what I think another positive that we have seen this year, especially when we're in zone coverage, is the Badgers have been doing a much better job of redistributing routes in pass coverage without overcommitting and knowing where to be. And for example, we're going to get here a lot of eye candy, a lot of movement, okay? But it ends up we're just running a nice clear out shallow cross. Linebackers are doing a good job of keeping the ball underneath them, and then as the ball's in the air, now we're getting downhill. Okay? We don't want to get caught with our safety who's rotating over because we have a corner blitz. He becomes the hook to curl player. He cannot become a flat player. He cannot come down farther. Otherwise, it opens up the whole shot on this little corner. And when you run a corner blitz, that can be the biggest issue is the overcompensation. I think we've done a really good job at when we do blitz from the secondary that we've been able to redistribute the routes. Keep the ball in front of us. And again, even if this is caught and he's open, because that's the way the passing play works. Somebody's going to get open, especially when a corner blitzes. But we minimize the damage. And being in good position with that helps in a situation like this. Okay, next up, another thing I liked about this game in terms of personnel use is a way, because we've talked about it, we have to get the young players involved. Because in this era of the transfer portal, guys aren't going to wait. So we need to find ways to get the guys on the field as quickly as we can, but without overwhelming them and without putting too much on their plate. One thing that I think they did really well in this game is in obvious passing situations, they would bring in Mason Posa and kind of use him. I'm not necessarily saying like a QB spy, but to put him in a position where his athleticism can be used as a pure benefit. And here, he does a great job of creating pressure. Now, I got to stay on his feet, obviously. But it takes some quickness to make a move like this, get around on this kind of stunt where we're slanting. He's got to step in, come around the corner, keep the track, force the quarterback out of the pocket, and then we have to layer and we have to understand our role in QB contain. When you have an active quarterback who can take off and run, like I'm surprised he actually didn't take off and run here, but that means he's going to take a big pop. You have to be able to be in good position. And again, we see here, every receiver is covered. Covered, high-low covered, high-low covered. Everything is under control. And we force a bad pass. But this is good personnel usage, and it's a good way to get a young guy playing time without putting too much on his plate. Okay? Blitz, come around the edge, chase the quarterback. Mason Posa can do that all day. This next play here is going to be seen as a negative. And it ends up being a first down, spoiler alert. But this is the type of thing that I have been calling for all year. That is, at the end of the day, is going to help our defense. And that is being smart and using more zone coverage. And what we're seeing here is a simple 3-deep coverage. And, yeah, Rico's playing high over the top. And he keeps the ball in front of him. Okay, turns out to be a big gain. I get that. However, This is the type of play that a lot of times when we're running man coverage can turn into a bomb downfield. Another thing too, let's look at this from the end zone angle to just see how talented arm talent that Malik Washington shows on this play. And when you play against a quarterback with elite arm talent, and I think this is it right here. I mean, there is so much traffic that he's throwing around and through and just throws an absolute strike. Also, one little thing for me here. I really like his throwing motion. Compact, tight, balanced, and it just rips the ball. Okay? Rico should be upset that he gave up a completion. Absolutely. But this is playing the law of averages and putting us in a better position for the rest of the game. Because we're going to see later, and I'll highlight it, instances where if we turns this into man coverage, it can turn into a big play for the offense even more. All right, next up, you probably are so far accusing me of just, again, cherry picking the good things. We're going to talk about some things that definitely need to improve and get better. And, this is the first time the pairing of Matt Young and Austin Brown are in the game together as a starting unit. And I think for the most part, I was pretty impressed with the start of Matt Young. But as you can kind of see, the Matt Young is not really replacing Preston Zachman. Matt Young is replacing Austin Brown, and Austin Brown is replacing Preston Zachman. In this kind of, Matt Young is more of the box safety in this game, the strong safety, and Austin Brown's playing more of the free safety. And again, it plays into Matt Young's natural, instincts for the football. And he's going to become a fantastic Wisconsin-type strong safety. I have no doubt, and he's getting there. Austin Brown, you can kind of see why he's spent a lot of his career in the box. Or, he was a nickel last year. He's too high in his back pedal, and he's not understanding the route distribution here. Because as soon as he hesitates right there, this play is dead. Matt Young has to widen here. He has to. If he doesn't, you give up an easy opportunity to give the deep out here. So, in terms of where he needs to align, I think he's correct. Again, we kind of see where Austin Brown, how he's widening. That's kind of about as wide as Matt Young needs to get in terms of relation to the formation. Okay. Now, what ends up happening here is the ball is thrown back across the field to Austin Brown's hash mark, his half of the field. If Matt Young comes underneath this and tries to snipe this, it creates space coming back to his side. This curl post kind of play, Austin Brown, he needs to be able to turn into it and not turn back to it. And that, as you can see right there, he turns, he's coming to it, and then the ball just continues over his head. So he needs to backpedal square, stay there. He needs to be quicker, and he can't hesitate here because this underneath stuff, that's not his responsibility. We saw this before with Rico Hallman on the last play we talked about. He gave up a 15 whatever yard completion in front of him. His job was the deep third. He doesn't need to worry about this. Saw the ball in the air. He came downhill. He made a tackle the best he could. Okay? It is what it is. Sometimes you give up yards. Austin Brown, in this situation, his job is deep half. Okay? And if we want to nitpick, okay, ball's right here. I mean, it's deep half of the field. So anything that crosses the middle of the field is his. Okay? It's got to be his. It's got to be his. He's got to turn better. Got to be in better position. This happened a couple times where they caught him either nose in the backfield or biting underneath, and they made him pay. He's a solid safety, and I think for the most part he plays fine. But unfortunately, Maryland found a couple opportunities to take advantage of him, and were able to get the ball over his head. All right, a couple more for you here, and this is highlighting some growth and some improvement compared to the last couple weeks, and that was trying to exploit Tackett Curtis in pass coverage. And so they're just running a snag concept, the air raid-esque snag concept. We're creating a lot of traffic, okay? And Tackett Curtis has to navigate through this. And he needs to make sure, he needs to avoid running into his own defenders here. Gets through, gets downhill, ball's dropped. If this ball is caught, he pops him for a minimal gain. So I like his ability. That's improving to get out in space. He needs to be a little cleaner about it, but he recognizes the play and gets out there right away. He has to navigate through this. And if anything, he actually helps us by slightly tripping up that receiver coming through. But it's an improvement. And it's something that teams have been exploiting, getting our linebackers in coverage. So if we continue to see growth and being able to put them in better position, that can be seen as a positive. Okay, so kind of continuing on the theme of things that Austin Brown needs to work on is if you're going to play a deep boundary safety in a situation like this, you have to have the ability to become the force player. Because when a team comes out in a double tight look, what they're, and especially under center version of wide zone, they want to really hard get this edge because we want to run the ball out in the alley in this alignment. And, you know, they get a pretty good set here on Corey Walker, but Austin Brown is very tentative coming downhill. He has got to be able to help in this situation. Doesn't help that Ben Barton gets way too high, but we have got to do a better job of getting downhill because he is the force player. He is. Okay, so because we've got a blitz on, so you're not going to get the peel back. And let's look at the box real quick. Okay, and there's nothing fundamentally or systematically wrong with this run fit. Okay, we got the blitz. Allegro is basically going to be your cutback player. So, and I think he does his job. Austin Brown needs to get downhill. 71 is hunting for him. So he has got to get downhill here at Corey Walker before 71 can get to him. And he needs to be more physical than this. Flat out. Okay, also doesn't help here that Emilio Agard overruns it. Always take the shoulder you got. And this position here, it might not look like it, but he's got the inside shoulder. He's running too flat to the sideline. Put yourself in better position there. Okay? Things that we can grow on. All right, and the last play that I want to highlight here is something that Maryland did throughout the game. Again, they are trying to game plan for what they've seen that the Badgers have done so far this season. And in a motion to empty look, a lot of times they ended up getting this linebacker to have to go out on the running back. Why? Because the Badgers were running man coverage. Okay, they had a smart check throughout this game. We saw this hand motion a lot. Okay. They're going to play over the top, and they're going to keep the ball in front of us. The 2nd and 10 situation. So, in order to play top down, we're going to show 5 here. We're going to show the mug look. We're going to have the ability to drop out. We're trying to create pass rush options by showing more than they can protect. Okay, we're showing 5. We're trying to occupy all five sets of eyes, and then we're going to drop out. Okay, helps that we're able to get even a little bit of pressure here. That's nice, but it creates that, again, seeing ghosts kind of idea. But more importantly, it allows us to rally to the football. So what we're kind of getting here is we're getting Matt Young playing over the top of these 3, and we're kind of playing low here. And we're just playing at the sticks. Our linebackers are going to drop out, take care of any in-breaking routes. I think Sebastian Cheeks actually does a really good job here of walling out, who was primary. Yeah, he's definitely the first read on this for sure. And then he has to readjust. We're inside out here. Has to go to his check down. Okay, that's nothing that exciting to begin with. Okay, I'll be the first to admit. But this is late in the game, you're down by 20 points. In a game where this game ends up you giving up 27 points defensively, 20 of those points are directly attributed to offensive and special teams mistakes. And we rally to the football. We get 2 defensive backs making good, solid, open field tackles for no gain. Sorry, 2nd and 8. Excuse me, not 2nd and 10. This is not signs of uninspired defensive play. First thing, this is a sign of good recognition and reaction by Rico Hallman. He's a smart corner. And when he doesn't outthink himself, he can make plays like this. I think he's going to be a good zone corner. I think he's been exploited at times in man. Okay. Jameer Latimer is a solid tackling nickelback, a solid coverage nickelback. Okay. We're able to get pressure. We're able to drop. And we're able to rally to the football. There are 4 or 5 bodies, 6 bodies right there. Okay. This is not uninspired football. This is a defense that was overworked in this game, but they had a plan. I think the plan was solid. They need to execute the plan better, and it just flat out comes down to that. Flat out. They weren't outmatched. They weren't outgunned. Sometimes you just got to play better. But the idea that they weren't prepared, that the coaching staff didn't prepare them, that they were uninspired is wrong at best, insulting at worst. And it's sometimes hard for me to separate my coach self from my fan self. I totally get where the fans are coming from. I would think that too. But I also know defensive football. I have studied it. I've learned it. And trust me when I tell you, when you watch these games, you can find the players who are playing uninspired, who are not trying hard, who are not giving the effort. You can find them. There were some players in this game who did that. Player in particular, at times. But he wasn't on defense. So, I know I might be seeing this trying to find too many positives. And the reason why I do that is because I'm a fan. And I enjoy Wisconsin football. I always will. And the day that I find watching Wisconsin football uninteresting, I'm going to stop doing it. Flat out. Until then, I'm going to break down the film. I'm going to look at the scheme and the players. I'm going to learn about this team. I'm going to learn about its inner workings. I'm going to learn about the scheme and how I can apply it to my day job. That's how I'm going to grow as a fan and as a coach. And when times get bad, that's a question you got to ask yourself. Do you want to do that? If you don't, stop watching. Simple as that. All right. So that is the Badgers defense versus Maryland. A lot of ups and downs. I think the game plan was solid. I think the offense and the special teams did not help them. And if we could actually play complementary football in the way that it's intended, there is talent. Whether it's going to be enough to save Luke Fickell and the coaching staff's jobs and most of these players their roster spots, who knows? But that's what we're going to find out for the rest of the season. So until then, thank you as always for watching, and we'll see you next time.